Now that we've looked at importing and recording sounds, we can perhaps look at how you might start to edit them, or to at least manipulate them within the editing window of Pro Tools. It's not too busy at the top here, but we'll go through some of these controls and I'll explain what they do. There's a certain amount of extra fuss down here which you can get rid of, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute, because some of it you won't need when you're working. First thing obviously we need to do is to have some sound in there to edit, so I'm going to import 3 of these sounds to the region list, and they will sort themselves out, and it doesn't even ask me whether I want to convert them this time, it just automatically does it. So now if we go to the editing window session folder, which is here, notice I put my initials on this time, we go to the audio files and there they all are. So once again, by default, it will, whenever it makes new files, it will put them in the audio files folder of the session file or session folder that you've made. So let's get rid of that for a minute. Actually, I'll minimise that. Absence of clutter. Now go away. Right. So when you just as I did before, you can drag any of these sounds directly into any of the tracks that you want. So we can do that, have different sounds on different tracks. Obviously, you would hope that they have something to do with each other, otherwise you will get some results that perhaps you don't want. In fact, I only want one of those up there at the moment, so I'm going to get rid of that one. Just deleted it. So first of all, I'm going to talk about these bits here. These, I suppose, are your main editing tools, and the main one perhaps would be your grabber tool, and it's a this hand, and you'll use that one to select the region that you've got in here and move it around. So that's fairly straightforward. You have a actually the function of that is slightly different when you're in different modes, so I'll come back to that. You have a selector tool, which is a sort of a cursor like you'll find in a word processing document, and that similarly is to enable you to make a selection from the area that you that you particularly want to edit. It may be that you want to trim that, it may be that you want to do a variety of other tasks to that, but if you click and drag, then you make a selection. If you press shift while doing so, then you can extend or reduce the length of that selection from either side, and depending on which side you're closest to, it will choose which one to change. If you click once, then you will make it will place the cursor, and in fact, for the most part, there are different modes in Pro Tools, but for the most part, if you put your cursor in a particular place and it's flashing like it is at the moment, if you press play, it will play from that point or very, very close to it. At the moment, I've got a pre-fade on there, pre-roll, which maybe I'll show you shortly, but essentially, if wherever I put my cursor, it will play from that point. If I double click, it will select the whole region, and something which I can't show you now. Well, actually, I suppose I could if I zoom out. Oops. Sorry, zoom out. Okay, and I put something else along on the same track. You'll notice that whatever I've last dragged in will be highlighted. If I triple click, so remember, single click places a cursor, double click selects the region, triple click will select everything on that track. There are, obviously these are just kind of shortcuts for doing certain things. As you become more familiar and fluent with Pro Tools, you'll either use these or you won't, depending on what you find most useful. Okay, so that's the selector tool. And then the next one is the trim tool, which does exactly what it says on the tin. So you click on the end of a region and you can use the trim tool to trim it. to whatever length you want. So obviously what I'm doing, I'm not moving any data, I'm just choosing which bits of data to hear or not to hear. Actually, that's a specific issue, I suppose, which I haven't discussed. ProTools does non-destructive editing. It doesn't change the original file on the disk, it just chooses what parts of that to listen to, if you like, or to display on your editing window. So whatever I change here is not going to affect the original file on the disk. It's just going to change how much of it we hear when we play through ProTools. So basically, having made that region shorter, none of that data has actually disappeared, and if I increase the size of that again, that data kind of reappears on the end. So that's the trim tool. If again, by default, it trims from the side that it is closest to. So at the moment it's trimming from the right hand side. If I move the trim tool to the left, once it gets past the middle, it will flip around and trim from the left hand side. If you want to make it do it the other way round, click on you click on the Alt tool or the Option key, and it will flip it around so that it trims from the other side. Okay, so I'll just undo that. Both of these tools, incidentally, the trim tool and the grabber tool, have other alternative selection or alternative kind of modes to them, which will enable you to do different things, and it actually makes it relatively powerful in that respect as well. I won't show you those right now, bearing in mind that we're discussing the basics at the moment, but they are there for you to investigate. The trim tool has some time stretch functionality as well, or time compress, and some looping functionality as well. So again, you might want to explore that. The zoomer tool, fantastic names these have got, zooms. It's a magnifying glass, so as you would expect, you can zoom in on the portion that you want to look at in more detail, and if you press Alt, then you'll notice that the icon changes and becomes a minus, so it will zoom out instead of zooming in.